I slept till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Really? Oh, I airmailed that bitch. Why? Sexiness? Alright, here we go, folks. No one really knows for sure. Elu ve Elu, Divrei Elokim Chaim. But this is the Mazorah we live by. Is it? It's what I do, baby. You do whatever the fuck you want. There's but one rule. Don't fuck up. Really? There's but one rule. Do as I will. Just don't fuck up. Alright. Now what? Um, let's go to Yiddish. We I get excited to do these things, and then when I have to do them, like, oh, I don't want to do them. You get excited, yeah, sort of. All right, so we've got Amachai. That's what the Rebbe says. That's what she fucks this dog. Uh, Halavai. That's what she wants to have. I wish Amachai is like something so great, pleasurable that it can bring back life to the dead. Yiddish kap. Yenta. It's kind of a fetish of mine. It's a talkative bitch. Tachlis. That's brass tacks, motherfucker. Nosh. It means to eat. Like I eat pussy. I nosh on pussy. It actually means a snack. All right. Basher. That's a soulmate. There's Bashirta and Bashirter. Really? Oh, yeah. Everybody knows that, though. Really? Duh. Of course. All right. Mishmash. Mishmash. I was taking a bath. All of on a Saturday night. Rub dub, just relaxing in the tub, thinking everything was all right. Everybody knows that. Bubkiss. That means beans. Means nothing. Really? It means bullshit. Really? It just means nothing. Good Yontif. Did we do that one yet? Yeah. It means happy holiday. What's l'chaim? That's to life, baby. A wish for life. The word l'chaim means to life and has been a traditional wish Jews share when raising their glasses in celebration for at least 2,000 years. You can read the fascinating treatment of why the term is chosen here. I guess we'll have to do that. In time, the term has come to refer to the act of sharing a glass of spirits and even to the drink itself. Thus, shot glasses are l'chaim glasses, and making a toast is making a l'chaim, an engagement celebration. The next bit is going to veer off a bit. The next bit is going to veer a bit off course, so please bear with me. In Jewish times, it was customary for a Jewish couple to become legally engaged a full year before they would marry. During this time, the bride and groom were considered married, but they did not yet live together. This quasi-marriage state was known as erusin. With the destruction of the temple and the disruption of Jewish life at that time, this became increasingly difficult. What would happen if the bride or the groom were captured or needed to flee from marauders during the year-long wait? Thus, it was decided that erusin should take place in tandem with the marriage itself and be performed almost immediately before the seven blessings are recited and the couple is joined in full matrimony. But what was to happen to the engagement? At the time when the two parties decided to go forward with the wedding, a contract was drawn up specifying the date of the wedding and other considerations. But that too presented its share of difficulties. Backing out of the contract is no simple matter on a legal or a spiritual plane. It has therefore become customary in many communities to delay the largely perfunctory contract signing to the wedding day as well. So, what is left for the engagement? A verbal commitment called a vort in Yiddish. Thus, a sit-down engagement celebration has come to be known as a vort. Since the occasion will most certainly be celebrated over a glass of fire water and hearty wish of l'chaim, a smaller, more informal party is often called a l'chaim. So now you know. If someone invites you to come to a l'chaim, get your party clothes ready. If someone invites you to make a l'chaim, get ready for a shot of good stuff, and think of something nice to say in return. If someone invited, if you're invited to make multiple l'chaim, look for a designated driver. All right, is that the end of your story? No. Why is the term chosen? Why did you choose l'chaim? How long is this? It's long enough for me to be able to drink coffee. Oh yeah, it's got coffee and Kabbalah and coffee. Really? Yeah, dog. And what about it? It's it's a thing.
Why did you choose to lie to life? My friend and I were having a little argument the other night. I lifted my glass of choice and wished it lie, which, I explained, is a special Jewish toast that means to life. He said that there's nothing unique about that kind of toast, and that many cultures, ranging from Armenians to native New Zealanders, say the same thing in their respective languages. So I ask you, dear Rabbi, why do we say lie? Is there a uniquely Jewish reason for this custom? Reply. You guys touched on a point of contention that is over 2,000 years old. Back then, people would toast to wine and life to the mouths of the rabbis. Some felt that this was a forbidden, pagan superstition, but the Talmud countered this opinion by quoting a deceptive one that permits this toast. The Talmud also cited the precedent of Rabbi Akiva, who said this formula over every covenant son to at least point two. So we know that toasting to life is at least 2,000 years old and is considered a Jewish custom. But why? What is so Jewish about it? There are a number of reasons given for toasting to life, or perhaps for life is a better translation of life. Bad stuff happened when wine was drunk. According to one opinion, the tree of knowledge was actually a grapevine. 3 accordingly. Adam, and Eve's abiding of grapes, or perhaps wine, brought death into the world. But it gets worse. After surviving the great flood, Noah planted a vineyard and became drunk, and you can read the disaster that followed in chapter 9 of Genesis. Then, in chapter 19, we read about Lot, whose daughters made him drunk and caused him to sin with them. Since alcohol consumption can easily lead to negative consequences, we express the wish that this drinking of wine be to life. For some even have the custom of spelling this wish out explicitly by toasting lime, for good life and for peace. 5. To life or not to life? The Midrash brings another fascinating explanation. After the judges of the Jewish court would deliberate on capital cases, they would turn one last time to those whom they sent to question the witnesses and ask for their opinion. Savary Meriden, attention, gentlemen. If they opined that the plaintiff should live, they would reply, Line, to life. If, however, it was death, they would reply, Mida, to death. If the judges found the defendant guilty, he would be given very strong wine in order to diminish the pain of the execution. 6. And so, when we drink our wine, we wish that it be to life, unlike the strong wine drunk by the person about to be executed. 7. A chastity approach. When hearing people toast Line, Rabbi Rothschild used to respond, Line Vilracha, to life, and to blessing. Once at a chastity gathering, his disciple, Rabbi Rothschild of Laity, also responded, Elche Vilracha. After the gathering, a discussion about this expression ensued. One chassid proposed, the Talmud states that when wine enters, secrets come out. 8. When we drink wine, our emotions are revealed. However, this is something that requires a blessing that although, well, so the Arabic word Racha, for blessing. The Hebrew word Racha can also be read as a contraction of two words, Racha, a sensitive, literally, soft, hard, something we wish for. Of course, all of the above does not take away from perhaps the simplest meaning behind saying Elhai. Just as Rabbi Akiva would bless others with Elhai when drinking, so too we, when saying Elhai, don't necessarily have deeper intentions behind the toast. We mean it simply as a bestowal of blessings upon our friends. 9. The Talmud tells us that when two people share a drink together, it brings them closer together. 10. In light of this, and Senach said that when two Jews, for whatever reason, share a drink and wish each other Elhai, they draw down peace and blessings into the world. The power of camaraderie coupled with wishes of Elhai is so great that Rabbi Rothschild of Laity, the altar Rebbe, proclaimed that which the closeness and good wishes of a chastity gathering can accomplish, even the archangel Michael cannot accomplish. 11. On a final note, when Mashiach comes, there will be a grand feast, at the conclusion of which we will toast Elhai over the wine that Genie has kept hidden for this special occasion since the dawn of creation. 12. May it happen soon. 13.
I wonder if it has a wine bladder in a box. Dog. That was sick. Was it? It was whatever. There's something else we had to say. Oh, yeah. Let's do the date. It's 12th of Shabbat, 5786, Friday, January 30th. 3:43 Pacific time. Really? Yeah. All right. So then what? Do
the worst thing one can do is learn by themselves. Why? What happens when you learn by yourself? Let's say you learn by yourself and you make a mistake, and what happens? There's no one there to correct you. No one there to correct you. So therefore, again, sometimes the greatest accomplishment we have in this world.
Baruch is Daf Dalet. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. A few months back, when I found out my sister-in-law got sick, that day I started making a daf. Just recently I promised her that for Choser Refuah Shlema, I'm going to try to get 10,000 new subscribers during the Sima Shas. In fact, today, Baruch Hashem, in your schos, we achieved that monumental occasion, and Shoshana Brazil Basilka should have a Refuah Shlema. I also like to thank the over 1,500 people who viewed a regular 42-minute cheer. You can find that on YouTube. Search under Eli Stefanski or Rabbi Rothschild and subscribe. The Pasuk says in Helen, the Rabbi says, Shomer Nafshi, Kichasid Hanim. The Rabbi has a 42-minute cheer. You can find that on YouTube. The only thing I'm a chassid compared to the other keys of the world, get up 3 hours of the day, and I get up at Chatzos. Or the other kings, they sit around with their friends. Well, I act as a local rabbi. I check out afterbirds with my fingers. I get my hands bloody to make sure that women are covered to their husbands. I'm a chassid by Esmi Piboishes, who's known as Ish Boishes. The reason why it's called Miti Boishes is because
it's interesting that they have normal 1.25, 1.5, not 1.75.
Embarrasses David Melech. David Melech asks the same questions. He says, "Is this tar? Is this kosher?" And he embarrasses him. He's that much better than David Melech. David Melech got his revenge, so to speak, when he had a son Daniel, who was called Killa because he was able to embarrass Miti Boishes in Allah. It says in the famous pasuk, "Hulei Himanti Leres Betul Hashem." The word Hulei has dots on top of it. David Melech wasn't sure that he'd be Zoicha. And the reason is because he was worried Shemi Yigrim Achik. Perhaps he'll sin and he won't be Zoicha. As we see, when Yaakov Avinu promised him Shemir or protection, it says in the pasuk by Yira Yaakov, he was worried. Why? Shemi Yigrim Achik. In fact, we see that the head was guarded. Israel should have had the same kind of nisim of Kriyas Yamsel as Israel had the first time when they went into Israel. And the reason why he wasn't Zoicha is because Gorav Achet.
972 scam.
The Shachtacha means when people go to sleep, the time that they go to bed, which is a 4-hour period from the time it turns dark until the end of Ashmur Rishon. According to Gamliel, the Shachtacha doesn't mean when you go to bed, it means when you are sleeping, which means the entire night all the way until Amud Shachar. That's what the word Shachtacha means. So they say that you can only say Kriyash Man Chatzois, that to distance a person from an Avir. You're concerned that a person will come home from work, a hard day to work on the field, he'll eat a little bit and say, let me take a little nap. And he'll fall asleep for the rest of the night, and that will be Chayiv Misa. Why is the Gemara so strong with this language? It's Chayiv Misa. Because sleep is very dangerous. If you try to take a short nap, you fall asleep for the rest of the night. Another shot is because we want to tell you, you should know Ma'ariv is not, or Shus, it's obligatory. You say Krishma, it says in the Gemara, and then immediately you say Shemon Esrei, and that goes according to Rabbi Rothschild. Rabbi Rothschild says if you say you mention Yitzias Mitzrayim, you have to say Shemon Esrei immediately. Rashi explains beautifully, and that is because, first, you praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Kaviyachal, you open HaKadosh Baruch Hu's heart, and once his heart is open, you can jump in and ask for your tzorachim and you say Shemon Esrei. Shmuel Levi says, you don't say Kriya Shema then Shemon Esrei. The opposite. Say Shemon Esrei then Kriya Shema. Make a sandwich. When you wake up in the morning, you say Kriya Shema, then Shemon Esrei, then Shemon Esrei, Kriya Shema. In other words, it's Kriya Shema on both sides. Why? What's the shayla? The question is, whether do we consider the Gulas Mitzrayim, the main part happened during the day, but perhaps as Rabbi Yochanan, there's a little bit that started at night, and therefore at night also you have to be Soy Gula Tefillah. Shmuel Levi says no. The main thing happened during the day, and that's what we need to concentrate on. Or the question is, the Shachbachov Kimachad is a hekesh between laying down and getting up. According to Rabbi Yochanan, just like when you get up, you have to say Kriya Shema and then Shemon Esrei, so too when you go to sleep, you say Kriya Shema and then Shemon Esrei. Shmuel Levi says there's a hekesh. Learn from the hekesh is that when you get up, you say Kriya Shema. In other words, Kriya Shema is closer to sleep. So, and also, first say Shemon Esrei, then you say Kriya Shema, so that Kriya Shema should be closer to sleep. If you have to say Kriya Shema and then immediately Shemon Esrei, why is it that during Ma'ariv we have brachas in between Shema and Shemon Esrei? The answer is once a chum we're masakin it. It's considered a gubul ha'arif. It's a long expression of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and then for the same reason we say Hashem's Chosai Tiftach, Fi Yagid Yosecha, it's a tefillah arugah, it's a part of Shemon Esrei. Whoever says Ashrei 3 times a day, the famous saying is Muftach L'Shemon Mabo, because Ashrei contains the Seder of Aleph base. Every pasuk starts Aleph and then 7 pasuk base Gimel, and the other reason is it's a combination of these 2 reasons that it contains the famous pasuk of Yiseach Yisyodecha Masbir L'Chayot. If you notice, Ashrei is missing the pasuk that starts with the Nun, because that pasuk talks about how Klai Yisrael falls and doesn't get up. In Eretz Yisrael, they learned that pasuk that Klai Yisrael fell down, but they will get up from the fall. As the Ramel had in Ruach HaKodesh, he said right away, the following letter, Samach, Soynech Hashem L'Chal HaNoiflim, Kosh Baruch Hu will lift up those who fall. The Gemara tells us that Malach Michal, when he flies, it's non-stop. But Gavriel has a stopover. He makes 1 stop, so basically he has 2 flights. Eluyanovi has 4 flights. In other words, he has 3 stops. The Malach HaMovis has 8 flights, because the Malach HaMovis has 7 stops. We want the person to be able to do Shuvah, and we make it hard for the Malach HaMovis to arrive at his destination. Yet if there's a Mageifa, where many people are dying, then the Malach HaMovis has a direct flight. Shmuel Levi says that there's a mitzvah to say Kriya Shema Lamitas. We see the pasuk brings about the people go back from Amishkachim, when you're laying down, you say Kriya Shema. However, Talmud Chacham constantly repeats the story of the Chazaris. Perhaps watches the name of the daf. Not really. Talmud Chacham like that doesn't have to say Kriya Shema Lamita. Rabbi says even Talmud Chacham shall he say 1 pasuk. For instance, V'yal Chaf Tefruchi, V'yisai Si, shall them Hashem Kei Emes. Have a wonderful day.
A wonderful day.
I'd like to apologize. We're simply overwhelmed by the vast amount of new subscribers that we just had in recent days.
Bots.
Very difficult for us to get the video out to everybody.
972 scam.
The Gemara says that person should use the Yetzer Toiv in a battle against the Yetzer Hara constantly. If that doesn't work, he should learn Torah. If he sees that he's not beating the Yitzhar, he should say Kriya Shema. If it's still not working, he should remind himself of Yom Anisa, the day of his death. This has come as a surprise to some people, that even Shas, all of Shas, came down to Moshe Rabbeinu on Sinai. As we learned the pasuk, the Luchos, so Evan is referring to the Luchos, that's the difference. Not Torah. The one is Mechuyev to learn Torah. Chamisha Chumash Torah. The mitzvah is referring to Mishnayos. Asher Kosafti is Nevi'im Exud. How do I get halacha? From Gemara. You cannot derive halacha from Mishnah, rather from Gemara, and all these came from Moshe Messina. We want to discuss Krish Malamita. That Krish Malamita acts as a double-edged sword to kill away the Mazikim, and Rosh says to get rid of your sword. Says Rabbi, I don't need a pasuk for that. Every kid knows that the pasuk says if you do it again, Rosh tells you, which is something that's trying to assume level. Torah is something that gets rid of your sword. Says Rabbi, if you don't learn Torah, then Rosh sends terrible Yisur. So Rosh doesn't act like a regular person who gives a present to somebody, or he sells something, he's upset. Rosh gave us the Torah, and he's excited about it. He says, if a person has Yisurim, and this is a site for life, a person should introspect, he should check to see what might cause his Yisurim. If he can't figure it out, he should assume it's because he's not learning Torah about the Torah. And if not, he should understand that Yisurim Shalahava is a concept that Shbor gives you Yisurim in order to double your Sachar and Hava. But Shbor says the Gemara gives Yisurim to the people he loves. On one condition, that those people accepted the Hava, and if they do, they'll be Zaycha, children, and Rivas Yom. The Machlokes, if Yisurim Shalahava is only in a situation where it doesn't create the Torah, according to one man, it's only in a situation where it doesn't create the Tefillah, according to Rabbi Rothschild, even if it creates the Torah and the Tefillah, it's still considered Yisurim Shalahava. If a slave leaves his master when his master knocks out his tooth or his eye, certainly Yisurim, which take hold of the entire body, they should give you a kaparas. Rav Shimon says, and this is also a great insight for life, anything good comes with a struggle. The Baruch gave us 3 gifts, and they all came with a struggle. He gave us the Torah, he gave us the struggle, and he gave us Olam Haba. If a person is involved in learning, or Gemilas Chasadim, or Rahman Islam buries his children, says the Gemara, all his Averos are forgiven. Rabbi says, although Tzaras is considered a kapara on Mizbeach, yet it's not considered Yisurim Shalahava. Those Yisurim, the difference is, those Yisurim come to take away Chatoim and Averos. Yisurim Shalahava, as we mentioned, means that it comes to double your Sachar. You can make a distinction, says the Gemara, perhaps somebody has Tzaras in Eretz Yisrael, where he has a lot of Busha. It's very embarrassing, he has to leave the Machni, he has to leave the cabin. Then that's considered not Yisurim Shalahava, but it's in Chutz La'aretz, in America, in Bagal, if you have Tzaras, that's Yisurim Shalahava. Another thing you can make is if these Yisurim are visible to others, and Tzaras is visible to others, that's not Yisurim Shalahava. But if Tzaras is covered, it's Yisurim Shalahava. Famous Lashon Rabbi Rothschild had 10 boys that were nifter, and he carried on himself a bone of one of his children, of the last child that died, and he said, this is a reminder of the Yisurim of a Hava that the Baruch gave me. Because Rabbi Rothschild was a tzaddik, you didn't have Yisurim that weren't Shalahava. The Gemara makes a distinction. If a person never has children, that's not Yisurim Shalahava. But if a person loses a child, that's Yisurim Shalahava. If you have an Abba, was sick, and Rabbi went to visit him. Rabbi asked him, are you happy with the Yisurim? He says, no, I'd rather not have Yisurim and I'd rather not have the Sachar. The explanation is because it causes too much to the Torah. Rabbi says, give me your hand, give him his hand, and he healed him. Rabbi himself was sick, but he couldn't heal himself because a person cannot take himself out of jail. Rabbi said the same thing. He says, I'd rather not have the Yisurim, I'd rather not have the Sachar. And Rabbi Abba took his hand and healed him. Rabbi Yochanan once visited Rabbi Lazar, who was also sick, and he saw that his house was dark. He rolled up his sleeve, and it became light in the house. Rabbi Yochanan's skin shined. And he asked him, why are you crying? If you're crying about the Torah that you didn't accomplish, the famous concept, doesn't matter the quantity, it's the quality that counts. And if you're crying because you don't have parnasa, so not everybody has 2 shulchanos, 2 tables. You have Torah, you should be happy with that. Since Rabbi Lazar crying about you, about your beautiful face, your beauty, that one day is going to be buried. And he explained, because Rabbi Yochanan explains, Rabbi Yochanan was the last of the beautiful people that lasted from Churban Abayis. And that's the end of an era. So they both sat and cried. Rav Huna, 400 of his barrels became vinegar. Chacham came to advise him, and he said, listen, you have to look into what you've done. There's a reason. And he said, what you questioned me, and they told him they knew. So when they were showing him, they knew that he did something. They said, what you questioned him, they'll do something without a reason. We see from here, every sort of, all the that we have comes with husband. And he said, I don't know, can you tell me? They said, well, perhaps he didn't pay your sharecropper. They said, well, the sharecropper is a Ghana, he stole from you, that's why he didn't pay. I said, nevertheless, even though he's a Ghana, if you steal from him, then you taste a little bit of the neighbor. So something I said about myself came back. And in fact, either all the small barrels became wine, or the price of vinegar became higher than wine. But before he did any of and before he ate, and Rashi says before he learned Torah, this says you don't understand what Rashi's saying. Of course, you can learn before davening. You should put your bed between north and south because the Shekhinah is facing east and west. And if you do so, you have one scharim, and the wife will miscarry. Have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day. All right. Man, I gotta take a shit. Okay, why don't, instead of talking about having to take it allegedly, taking a dump allegedly, why don't you go do it? And then, dude, what about all Parsha? Oh, I have to sign in. Fuck that shit. I don't want to sign in for anything. Just do it. All right. What else? Well, Safaria. Shout out to Julie and Henry Kaczynski. Whatever. Oh, not now. Okay, using online library. Dog, I don't know. I gotta time out. Really? Yeah. Well, how much time do we have to make up? We're at 20 minutes, baby. Look at this athleticism on the footwork. It's not perfect.
I'm overjoyed. I'm like the Shmarach, the Rothschild saying that so fast. So the other essentially says, Rothschild, take me. I'm ready to go. Take me. I'm happy to leave this world. And then Paisley for Shlomo, Paisley for Nisani. Shmarach, this is not so fast. Rothschild, this is beautiful. He told Yom Bachatze from the Elef. Told Yom Bachatze Osi for Torah, the Fanai, the Elef, almost Sha'asi Shema Bincha, Lahaku, the Fanai Kabbets. The Rothschild said, better than so fast. I'm not taking you one day off. Because one day of your life in this world is better and more important to me than the thousands of Rabbis that will be offered on the altar that your son Shlomo will build. Or say, such a devastating country of Israel, the power of a day, the power of the present. Shlomo represented the future. And while it's important to know how to plan for the future, it's important to think about the future, it's important to contemplate the future. Never try your future at the expense of your present. I don't know if this is exactly what Shiva was. Shiva Bush Harrison, he had a beautiful essay where he wrote about the idea of America, the 401k society. Right? Because I don't know what 401ks are worth anymore. I don't know, right? A 401k society. So everything is about the future. Everything is about retirement. Right? People have all of these plans. The future's going to be no. There's only one problem. But it's good to plan for the future. The only problem. People put so much emphasis on the future that they forget to maximize the present. People stay in careers that are unmeaningful and unfulfilling because again, it's going to give them some type of payout in the future. Right? And people compromise and sacrifice their present because now again, you have to plan for the future. But you can't build your future at the expense of the present. That's where the responsible is saying that hold up. This will come. But you are a man who maximizes each and every day. Because of that, I'm not taking you from this world. One day, let's go a little bit back to Kairos. The Chavez don't drop it. Ultimately, again, remember, the pathways are identified between what? The ones that are Yaakov other days. That's a long time. It's okay. Ultimately, again, there was a sign that said Miklach at the crossroads. In order that the murderer ultimately against your So again, the pathways were very clearly marked. I'm not kind of like prepare for yourself. Ultimately, like Sunday services. Right? So it's like truck. No, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm only batting for one team. I promise. My truck, talk to the Kadar, ultimately, and prepare for yourself. Prepare for yourself for outside. I see the clock from that. So remember again, the path needs to be good. What had to be very clearly demarcated. So when he would go ahead and give a shield on the blood, on the article blood, Again, he would open the year with the following idea. Ultimately, again, Hashem is good and just. Therefore, again, he shows the wicked the way. Because Hashem shows the wicked the proper paths, and Kal Vachomer and the Kodesh Baruch Hu will use to the righteous. So Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Shimon Lakish said, like this, I'll have our time. It's the only good show. Whenever they would give shir on Ari Mitzvah, they would always go.
So I was looking at Safaria. I can fucking do this. Really? I've seen it done. I've been in fucking Gemara classes for years. I've seen it done virtually. How would you do it? Well, that's a good question. I might have to so long as they don't make me log in. If I have to log in, I'm fucking hate that. Safaria.org. Talk Mishnah. Talmud. And Rothschild. Where were we? I don't even fucking know, dog. Okay. So how would you do it? Oh, bitch, I could do it. Really? I mean, I don't want to talk.
The beginning of Tractate
That's loud
Barakat.
as fuck. All right. Want to change the translation? We give cookies. Who gives a shit? All right. So get to Tractate 6. I know this is Kabbalah. We'll do Kabbalah this way too. Why? Because I don't want to fucking read it. My eyes are too bad. Really? Yeah. Does it read this shit? Talk. No. Mishmash. All right. Table of contents, translations, introduction. This shit sucks, dude. Just read it. We've got to catch up on the DAF. It's like we're like 3 years behind. Really? Oh, for sure. Why? No one knows. Dude. So what are we going to do? I don't know. Just get this bitch at number 6. Dog. There's no way you're going to be able to review all this shit every single day. You already go over time. 3A. I hate how this fucking thing is organized. Whatever asshole organized this shit is the worst. It's so fucking confusing. Really? It sucks. Why? It's just the worst. So instead of being like page 1, we're like, hey, let's start on page 2. Why? Because page 1's like fancy. All right, well, just don't count page 1. Dog. Okay, you got this.
The beginning of Tractate Barakat.
This bitch got to talk faster though. Really? Yeah, because I don't have time to fuck around. I got shit to do. And we probably should voice auto select. David, it works. Speed, pitch, volume. That's all tight. Show him pop up. Sure. All right, get this shit together. Let's go.
The infected robot first dragon versus scores Mishnah. The reservation from comes in Tippins view of the mitzvah and such point basis for also food.
This is in English. Oh, unless you're reading the other shit.
The infected Rabbi, the first tractate, the verse of the Sikh Mishnah, opens with the discussion of the recitation of Shema, as the recitation of Shema encompasses acceptance of the covenant of the mitzvah, and is such a basis for all subsequent teachings. The Mishnah opens the law regarding the appropriate time to recite Shema. Mishnah, from when that is, from what time to when recite Shema in the evening. From the time when the priest entered the verdict of Ruma. Until when is the time for the recitation of the evening Shema 10? Until the end of the first watch. The term used in Torah,
That's not
chapter 6, verse 7.
English.
Then the time for the recitation of the evening Shema.
I know
The first time
English.
we didn't go to sleep.
I'm generally pretty good at it. Really? No. I do all right, though. What did it test?
Read Aloud is a Chrome and Firefox extension that uses text-to-speech technology to convert web page text to audio.
Yeah. We get that.
It works on a variety of websites, including news sites.
Yeah, well, this site, it sucks. Really? Oh, it's the worst. Dog.
Read Aloud is a Chrome and Firefox extension that uses text-to-speech technology to convert web page text to audio.
Why is it?
Read Aloud is a Chrome and Firefox extension that uses text-to-speech technology to convert web page text to audio.
Okay.
It works on a...
All right, maybe this one.
The beginning of Tractate Barakat, the first tractate and the first of the 6 orders of Mishnah, opens with a discussion of the recitation of Shema, as the recitation of Shema encompasses an acceptance of the yoke of heaven and of the mitzvah, and as such, forms the basis for all subsequent teachings. The Mishnah opens with the laws regarding the appropriate time to recite Shema. Mishnah, from when, that is, from what time, does one recite Shema in the evening? From the time when the priest entered to partake of their Teruma. Until when is the time for the recitation of the evening Shema end? Until the end of the first watch. The term used in the Torah, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7, to indicate the time for the recitation of the evening Shema is B'shobega, when you lie down, which refers to the time in which individuals go to sleep. Therefore, the time for the recitation of Shema is the first portion of the night when individuals typically prepare for sleep. That is the statement of Rabbi Eliezer. The rabbis say, the time for the recitation of the evening Shema is until midnight. Rabbi Gamliel says, one may recite Shema until dawn, indicating that B'shobega is to be understood as a reference to the entire time people sleep in their beds, the whole night. The Mishnah relates that Rabbi Gamliel practiced in accordance with his ruling. There was an incident where Rabbi Gamliel's sons returned very late from a wedding hall. They said to him, as they had been preoccupied with celebrating with the groom and bride, we did not recite Shema. He said to them, if the dawn at night had arrived, you are obligated to recite Shema. Since Rabbi Gamliel's opinion disagreed with that of the rabbis, he explained to his sons that the rabbis actually agree with him, and that it is not only with regard to the halakha of the recitation of Shema, but rather, wherever the sages say until midnight, the mitzvah may be performed until dawn. Rabbi Gamliel cites several cases in support of his claim, such as the burning of fats and limbs on the altar. Due to the quantity of offerings each day, the priests were often unable to complete the burning of all the fats and limbs, so they continued to be burned into the night, as it is written, this is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering shall remain upon the fire on the altar all night until morning, while the fire on the altar burns it. Leviticus chapter 6 verse 2. And with regard to all sacrifices, such as the sin offerings and the guilt offerings that are eaten for one day and night, although the sages state that they may be eaten only until midnight, by Torah law they may be eaten until dawn. This is in accordance with the verse, on the day on which it is offered must you eat. Do not leave it until the morning, Leviticus chapter 7 verse 15. If so, why did the sages say that they may be eaten only until midnight? This is in order to distance a person from transgression, as if one believes that he has until dawn to perform the mitzvah, he might be negligent and postpone it until the opportunity to perform the mitzvah has passed. Gemara. The Mishnah opens with the laws concerning the appropriate time to recite Shema with the question, from when does one recite Shema in the evening? With regard to this question, the Gemara asks, on the basis of what prior knowledge does the Tana of our Mishnah ask, from when? It would seem from his question that the obligation to recite Shema in the evening was already established, and that the Tana seeks only to clarify details that relate to it. But our Mishnah is the very first Mishnah in the Talmud. The Gemara asks, and furthermore, what distinguishes the evening Shema, that it was taught first? Let the Tana teach regarding the recitation of the morning Shema first. Since most mitzvah apply during the day, the Tana should discuss the morning Shema before discussing the evening Shema, just as the daily morning offering is discussed before the evening offering, Sifat Harash. The Gemara offers a single response to both questions. The Tana bases himself on the verse as it is written, you will talk to them when you sit in your home, and when you walk along the way, when you lie down, and when you rise, Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 7. By teaching the laws of the evening Shema first, the Tana has established that the teachings of the oral Torah correspond to that which is taught in the written Torah. And based on the written Torah, the Tana teaches the oral law. When is the time for the recitation of Shema of lying down as commanded in the Torah? From when the priests enter to partake of their Teruma. Just as the written Torah begins with the evening Shema, so too must the oral Torah. However, there is another possible explanation for why the Mishnah opens with the evening Shema rather than with morning Shema. If you wish, you could say instead that the Tana derives the precedence of the evening Shema from the order of the creation of the world. As it is written in the story of creation, and there was evening, and there was morning, one day, Genesis chapter 1 verse 5. According to this verse, day begins with the evening and not morning. For both of these reasons, it was appropriate to open the discussion of the laws of the recitation of Shema with the evening Shema. The Gemara asks, if so, why does the latter clause of the Mishnah, which appears later in the chapter, teach, in the morning one recites 2 blessings before Shema and 1 blessing afterward, and in the evening one recites 2 blessings before Shema and 2 afterward? Based upon the above reasoning, the Mishnah should have taught the blessing recited before and after the evening Shema first. The Gemara answers, indeed, the Tana began by discussing the laws regarding the recitation of the evening Shema, and then taught the laws regarding the recitation of the morning Shema. Once he was already dealing with morning Shema, he explained the matters of the morning Shema, and then explained the matters of the evening Shema. The Gemara proceeds to clarify the rest of the Mishnah. The Master said in the Mishnah that the beginning of the period when one recites Shema in the evening is when the priests enter to partake of their Teruma. However, this does not specify a definitive time. When do the priests enter to partake of their Teruma? From the time of the emergence of the stars. If that is the case, then let the Tana teach that the time for the recitation of the evening Shema is from the time of the emergence of the stars. The Gemara responds, indeed it would have been simpler to say that the time for the recitation of the evening Shema begins with the emergence of the stars, but the particular expression used by the Tana teaches us another matter in passing. When do priests partake of their Teruma? From the time of the emergence of the stars. And the Tana teaches us a new halakha parenthetically, failure to bring an atonement offering does not prevent a priest from eating Teruma. In cases where an impure priest is required to immerse himself in a ritual bath and bring an atonement offering, even if he already immersed himself, he is not completely ritually pure until he brings the atonement offering. Nevertheless, he is still permitted to partake of Teruma. Taught in passing in our Mishnah, this is articulated fully in Verita based on close reading of the biblical passages. As it was taught in the Berida with regard to the laws of ritual impurity, it is said, one who touches it remains impure until evening. He should not eat of the consecrated items, and he must wash his flesh with water. And the sun sets and it is purified. Afterwards, he may eat from the teruma, for it is his bread. Leviticus chapter 22 verses 6 to 7. From the passage, and the sun sets and it is purified, that the absence of the saying of his son prevents him from partaking of teruma, but failure to bring the atonement offering does not prevent him from partaking of teruma, may be inferred. The Gemara discusses the proof offered in the Berida. From where do we know that the phrase, and the sun sets, refers to the complete saying of the sun, and therefore, and it is purified, refers to the fact that the day is pure, i.e., and the sun sets and it is purified is one phrase meaning that the sun will set, the air will clear, and the stars will emerge, Rav High Gown. 2b. Perhaps the expression, and the sun sets and it is purified, refers to the very beginning of sunset, saying of the sun's light. According to that explanation, what does the expression and it is purified mean? It means that the person will become purified. After immersing, he will wait until the beginning of sunset, and only then will he be able to eat of his teruma. Tosafot. Rabbi Rothschild said, if so, that, and it is purified, means that the priest goes and purifies himself, then let the verse say unambiguously, and he will become purified. Since the Torah does not employ that language, the conclusion is, what is the meaning of the expression, and it is purified? It means the day is pure, no residue of day remains, as people say colloquially, the sun has set and the day is purified. In the West, Eretz Israel, they did not hear this explanation given by Rabbi Rothschild. They raised the dilemma, does the expression, and the sun sets, refer to the actual saying of the sun, and does, and it is purified, mean the day clears away? Or perhaps it refers to the saying of its light at sunset, in which case what is the meaning of, and it is purified? It refers to the purification of the person. In other words, in Eretz Israel, they attempted to clarify the halakha based on the biblical passage, but were unable to do so. Ultimately, they resolved this dilemma from Berida. It was taught in Berida that the time for the recitation of the evening Shema corresponds to the time when priests are permitted to eat of their teruma, a sign for which is the emergence of the stars. Therefore, derived from here that, and the sun sets, refers to the complete sunset, and the expression, and it is purified, means the day clears away, as the sages in Babylonia concluded. In our Mishnah, the Master said, the beginning of the time for the recitation of the evening Shema is, from the time when the priests enter to partake their teruma. The Gemara raises a contradiction to this opinion from a Berida that states that the time for the recitation of the evening Shema is, from when a poor person enters to eat his bread with salt until he rises from his meal. The Gemara begins its analysis by clarifying whether there is an actual contradiction here, or whether different expressions are being employed to describe the same time. The latter clause of the Berida, which established that the time for the recitation of the evening Shema ends when a poor person rises from his meal, certainly disagrees with our Mishnah. Since a poor person clearly does not continue eating until the end of the first watch, this Berida certainly contradicts our Mishnah. With regard to the first clause of the Berida, however, which establishes the beginning of the time for the recitation of the evening Shema, shall we say that it disagrees with our Mishnah? The Gemara immediately rejects this idea. No, the time when the poor person eats and the time when the priest is purified and permitted to partake of his teruma are one and the same time.
Man, there's so much to cover. Okay. This is supposed to be Kabbalah and Kuafi. This isn't Daf Yomi. That dude, that asshole's doing Daf Yomi. That asshole's doing history. History's easy. Really? Yeah. Okay, so what do we do? Fuck, we gotta do Kabbalah. But you can see the seeds of something very great are planted here. When I was allegedly taking a giant shit, I recognized that I could do this. Really? Yep. I mean, I just hit play and listen. It's not that hard. But in reality, like, I could guide a class through this. So are you going to do it? Not yet. It's too much. We'll cover everything we can in Kabbalah. Really? Yeah, we'll read all the Kabbalah. We'll, like, work our way backwards. Why? Why not? All right, Eliyahu Davidas. Oh, I know about this guy. Wait, do I? Yeah, he's the guy who fought with... Didn't we already do this guy? Didn't we do this guy yesterday? Yeah, he fought with that other guy. Yeah, fuck. I gotta do a new one. Did we do Rashid Kochma?
Rishit Chachma is an important book of Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, ethics and morality, Muser literature, written by the 16th century scholar Rabbi Eliyahu Davidas. It is based largely on the Zohar. Its name literally translates into the beginning of wisdom, in allusion to the biblical verse, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Overview. Rishit Chachma describes a method of meditation that combines visualization and permutation of Hebrew letters, and is intended to inspire the reader with a sense of purity and holiness. It's studied on a regular basis. The book presents a combination of ethical and moral teaching with Kabbalah. The book shows the path to the uninitiated to enter the world and wisdom of Kabbalah. In a very easy and understandable style, the book explains to the reader the ways to attain the higher level of divine awareness which the Holy One wishes for his beloved people, Israel. One of the last chapters of the book deals with Derek Eretz, etiquette, in which the author expands on its importance, writing that whosoever is careful in what concerns proper manners and interacts with his fellow man, he is destined to prolong his life.
Dog. So then we actually have to go through a lot of shit today. I mean, it's already 4:14 in the fucking afternoon. You're not going to be able to show yourself anywhere anyway, because it's going to be Shabbat and everything, even though that shouldn't fucking matter. There's only 14% chance that it's Shabbat. Don't, I mean, you don't have to do anything.
Jewish philosophy and Jewish
You just
mysticism.
have to
His work
sit here.
wrote on Jewish philosophy and Jewish mysticism.
Yo.
His work
Yo.
Judah Lo ben Bezalel, Hebrew, c. 1524 September 17, 1609, also known as Rabbi Lo, Alt.lw, Loi, ViralRabbi, the Maharal of Prague, Hebrew, or simply the Maharal, the Hebrew acronym of Marinu Harav Lo. Our teacher, Rabbi Lo, was an important Talmudic scholar, Jewish mystic, mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher who, for most of his life, served as a leading rabbi in the cities of Mikulov in Moravia and Prague in Bohemia. Lo wrote on Jewish philosophy and Jewish mysticism. His work Gururei al HaTorah is a super commentary on Rashi's Torah commentary. He is also the subject of a later legend that he created the Golem of Prague, an animate being fashioned from clay. Name. His name LW or Lo is derived from the German Lw, lion, cf. the Yiddish Li with the same origin. It is a kinu, or substitute name, for the Hebrew name Judah or Yehuda, as the biblical character Judah was likened to a lion in Genesis 49:9. Lavi from that verse on Judah is a lioness, hence his name Yehuda Lavi. In Jewish naming tradition, the Hebrew name and the substitute name are often combined as a pair, as in this case in which the combined name is Judah Lo. When Lo wrote his classic super commentary on Rashi's Torah commentary, he entitled it Gururei al HaTorah in Hebrew, meaning young lion upon the Torah. Loi's tomb in Prague is decorated with a heraldic shield with a lion with two intertwined tails, Q4G, alluding both to his first name and to Bohemia, the arms of which has a two-tailed lion. Biography. Early life. Lo was probably born in Pozna, Poland, though Perels lists the birth town mistakenly as Worms in the Holy Roman Empire to Rabbi Bezalel, Lo, whose family originated from the Rhenish town of Worms. Perels claimed that his grandfather Chagin of Worms was the grandson of Judah Li the Elder and thus a claimant to the Davidic line, through Sheri or Gaon. However, modern scholars such as Otto Munoz have challenged this. Prior to the publication of Perels' genealogy in 1853, traditions existed of the Maharal's descent from the house of David, not through Yehuda Li the Elder or Hai Gaon, but through Rashi and his ancestor Yochanan the Sandler, died 140 CE. Loi's birth year is uncertain, with different sources listing 1512, 1520 and 1526. His uncle Yaakov ben Chagin was Reish Scrivener, rabbi of the Empire, of the Holy Roman Empire, and his older brother Chaim of Friedberg was a famous rabbinical scholar and rabbi of Worms and Friedberg. Sources in the Lubavitch tradition say that at the age of 12, Lo went to yeshivas in Poland and studied under Rabbi Yaakov Pollock. After Pollock left Poland, Lo spent 2 years wandering from place to place and then went on to the yeshiva of Rabbi Yitzchak Clover Worms, himself a student of Pollock. He learned together in yeshiva with the Maharshal who was 17, 2 years his elder. He learned together with the Maharshal and Rema for a further 3 years. Rabbi Yitzchak Clover was in fact the grandfather of the Maharshal. The Maharshal left Poland and the Maharal remained and studied with the Rema for 2 more years. Maharal was 6 years his senior. He spent 20 years studying before he married. Career. Lo accepted a rabbinical position in 1553 as Landesrabbiner of Moravia and Mikula, Nikolsburg, directing community affairs but also determining which tractate of the Talmud was to be studied in the communities in that province. He also revised the community statutes on the election and taxation process. Although he retired from Moravia in 1573, the community still considered him an authority long after that. One of his activities in Moravia was the rallying against slanderous slurs on legitimacy, nadler, that were spread in the community against certain families and could ruin the finding of a marriage partner for the children of those families. This phenomenon even affected his own family. He used one of the 2 yearly grand sermons, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur 1583, to denounce the phenomenon. Lo moved to Prague in 1573, where he again accepted a rabbinical position, replacing the retired Isaac Hayev. He immediately reiterated his views on Nadler. On February 23, 1592, he had an audience with Emperor Rudolf II, which he attended together with his brother Sinai and his son-in-law Isaac Cohen. Prince Verdier was present with the emperor. The conversation seems to have been related to Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, Hebrew, a subject which held much fascination for the emperor. In 1592, Lo moved to Pozna, where he had been elected as chief rabbi of Poland. In Pozna he composed Netiv Athalim and part of Derech Hayim. See below. Personal life. Loi's family consisted of his wife, Perel, 6 daughters, and a son, Bezalel, who became a rabbi in Kolan, but died early in 1600. His wife was the daughter of a wealthy merchant, which allowed him to devote himself to scholarship. His granddaughter was Eva Bogrok, was known for her scholarship and for the title of the book Havat Yair, authored by her grandson, Yair Bogrok. His elder brother was Chaim ben Bezalel, who authored a legal work Vikuach Mayim Hayim which challenged the rulings of Krakow legalist, Moshe Israel's. Death. Towards the end of his life Lo moved back to Prague, where he died in 1609. Lo is buried at the Old Jewish Cemetery, Prague in Josaphat, where his grave and tombstone are intact. Methodology. Loi's numerous philosophical works have become cornerstones of Jewish thought, and he was the author of one of the most creative and original systems of thought developed by East European Jewry. He employed rationalist terminology and classical philosophical ideas in his writings, and supported scientific research on condition that it did not contradict divine revelation. Nevertheless, Loi's work was in many ways a reaction to the tradition of medieval rationalist Jewish thought, which prioritized a systematic analysis of philosophical concepts, and implicitly downgraded the more colorful and ad hoc imagery of earlier rabbinic commentary. One of Loi's constant objectives was to demonstrate how such earlier commentary was in fact full of insightful commentary on humanity, nature, holiness, and other topics. According to Lo, the multitude of disconnected opinions and perspectives in classical rabbinic literature do not form a haphazard jumble, but rather exemplify the diversity of meanings that can be extracted from a single idea or concept. Lowy's writings use as sources the biblical verses and the recorded traditions of the rabbis, but through literary and conceptual analysis he develops these into a comprehensive philosophical system in which the following terminology recurs. An example of this terminology is Lowy's philosophical interpretation of the following midrash. The world was created for three things: Hala, Maser, and Bikurim. According to Lo, Bikurim represents Yesodot, as individual fruit are given. Maser represents Tarvim, as the fruit are gathered together and a fraction of them separated as a tithe. And Hala represents Tarkavim, as a new substance. Dough is created from the ingredients. To resolve contradictions between rabbinic literature and historical sources, Lowy's approach emphasizes his preference for allegorization. He often interprets seemingly historical rabbinic narratives as conveying deeper, esoteric truths rather than literal historical events. For example, in the case of Titus and the Yedash, Lo argues that the Talmudic story is not a factual account but a moral lesson about divine retribution. While he critiques Azariah Darazia's rejectionist tendencies, Lo himself avoids outright rejection of rabbinic texts, instead reinterpreting them to align with spiritual or metaphysical truths. His approach thus reflects a commitment to preserving the integrity of rabbinic literature while addressing historical challenges creatively. Lo did not espouse Kabbalah or other Jewish mystical traditions, though he was familiar with them. Thought. Lowy's worldview assumes that reality consists of a single cause, as well as diverse cause phenomena whose existence is constantly sustained by their cause. There is no room for randomness in reality, as that would indicate an absence of omnipotence or omniscience in the cause. For Lo, the uniform cause nature of reality also indicates the existence of moral order in the world. Science can describe the phenomena in the world, but it cannot create a preference for one over the other. Such moral preferences must come from the higher order of the Torah, which Lo calls the higher intellect. Lo emphasized the value of honesty and straightforwardness, among other things. This led him to criticize the pilpul methodology common in yeshivas of his time. He even suggested to avoid learning the commentaries of Tosafot until one has reached an advanced level of understanding. He suggested that if the commentaries of Rabbeinu Asher were printed in place of Tosafot, halacha-oriented study would be much more pervasive. Like Yehuda Halevi, he focused on the distinction between the physical and the spiritual, seeing the Jewish people as possessing an essentially spiritual nature which distinguishes it from all other phenomena in the world. Influence. Disciples. It is unknown how many Talmudic rabbinical scholars Lo taught in Moravia, but the main disciples from the Prague period include rabbis Yom Tov Lippman Heller and David Gans. The former promoted his teacher's program of regular Mishnah study by the masses, and composed his Tosafot Yom Tov, a Mishnah commentary incorporated into almost all published editions of the Mishnah over the past few hundred years. With this goal in mind, David Gans wrote Samach David, a work of Jewish and general history, as well as writing on astronomy. Both Lo and Gans were in contact with Tycho Brahe, the famous astronomer. Commemoration. Kerem Maharil, a moshav in northern Israel, was established by Czech Jewish immigrants and named in Lowy's honor. In April 1997, Czech Republic and Israel jointly issued a set of stamps, one of which featured the tombstone of Lo. In May 2009, the Czech Post issued a stamp commemorating the 400th anniversary of Rabbi Lowy's death. In June 2009, the Czech Mint issued a commemorative coin marking the same milestone. The statue of Judah Lo Ben Bezalel stands in Prague. Legend of the Golem. Lo is the subject of the legend about the creation of the golem, a creature made out of clay to defend the Jews of the Prague ghetto from anti-Semitic attacks, particularly the blood libel. He is said to have used mystical powers based on the esoteric knowledge of how God created Adam. The general view of historians and critics is that the legend is a German literary invention of the early 19th century. The earliest known source for the story thus far is the 1834 book Der J. Gilblas by Friedrich Korn. It has been repeated and adapted many times since. Works. He began publishing his books at a very late age. In 1578, at the age of 66, he published his first book, Gur Aryeh, Young Lion, Prague 1578, a super commentary in 5 volumes for Rashi's commentary on the Torah, which goes well beyond that. And 4 years later he published his book Jevirat Hashem, God's Might, Krakow 1582 anonymously. His works on the holidays bear titles that were inspired by the biblical verse in I Chronicles 29 hours and 11 minutes. Yours, O Lord, are the greatness, and the might, and the glory, and the victory, and the majesty, for all that is in the heavens and on the earth. Yours is the kingdom and who is exalted over everything is the leader. The book of greatness, Jedillah, on the Sabbath was not preserved, but the book of power, Jevira, is Jevirat Hashem. The book of glory, Tifera, is Tiferet Yisrael, and the book of eternity or victory Netzach, is Netzach Yisrael. References. Citations.
You really
Central European Kabbalist rabbis.
You really think you could teach Daf Yomi? You really think you could? Yeah, I fucking attended it for years under multiple rabbis. I've been to Chabad Daf Yomis, Young Israel Daf Yomis, other Orthodox congregation Daf Yomis. I watched this motherfucker 24/7. He just sits there, reads footnotes. This asshole's just telling me about fucking history. You really think you could do it? Yeah, it's just the time. It takes a long fucking time. So how would you do this? Well, I want to get through Kabbalah. I'd read everything in the... I guess we would just work our way backwards. It would be like that fucking Seinfeld where they go to India. So I guess we would... Well, I don't fucking know. We would... What would we do? Seriously, what would we do? We would get through all the Sefaria Kabbalah shit. We'd get through all of these biographies. Then we'd go through all the text, not learn anything from there. And then we would just start Daf, I guess.
Biography. In 1602, Isaiah Horowitz was appointed Abt in Austria, and in contents. Isaiah or Yeshayahu ben Avraham ha-Levi Horowitz, Hebrew, c. 1555 March 24th, 1630, also known as the Shelah HaKadosh, the Holy Shelah, after the title of his best-known work, was a prominent rabbi and mystic. Biography. Isaiah Horowitz was born in Prague around 1555. His first teacher was his father, Avraham ben Shabtai Sheftel Horowitz, a notable scholar and author, and a disciple of Moses Isserles, Rema. Horowitz studied under Meir Lublin, Joshua Falk and Nassan Noda Shapira. He married Chaya, daughter of Abraham Mowell, of Vienna, and was a wealthy and active philanthropist, supporting Torah study, especially in Jerusalem. In 1590, in Lublin, he participated in a meeting of the Council of Four Lands, and his signature appears on a decree that condemns the purchase of rabbinic positions. In 1602, Isaiah Horowitz was appointed Abt in Austria, and in 1606 was appointed Rabbi of Frankfurt. In 1614, after serving as rabbi in prominent cities in Europe, he left following the Fedmilch uprising and assumed the prestigious position of chief rabbi of Prague. In 1621, after the death of his wife, he moved to Israel, was appointed rabbi of the Ashkenazi community in Jerusalem, and married Hava, daughter of Eliezer. In 1625, he was kidnapped and imprisoned, together with 15 other Jewish rabbis and scholars, by the Pasha, Ibn Farah, and held for ransom. After 1626, Horowitz moved to Saved, erstwhile home of Kabbalah, and later died in Tiberias on March 24, 1630, Nisan 11, 5390 on the Hebrew calendar. In his many Kabbalistic, homiletic and halakhic works, he stressed the joy in every action, and how one should convert the evil inclination into good, two concepts that influenced Jewish thought through to the 18th century, and greatly influenced the development of Hasidic Judaism. Famous descendants of Isaiah Horowitz included Yaakov Yitzchak of Lublin, known as the Seer of Lublin, the prominent Bilixer rabbinical family of Serags, Hungary, and the Dime family of rabbis and communal leaders in Galicia, Aaron ha-Levi ben Moses of Stirasali, a prominent student of Shir Zalman of Liadi, the Fruchter Langer families, Rabbi Meir Zeligman of Mamel, Lithuania, B. 1921, D. 2008, and, on their mother's side, the important Yiddish writers Daniel Charny, Shmuel Charny, and Baruch Vladik, as well as Eli Wiesel. Works. His most important work, Shena Iluat HaBirit, Hebrew, 2 Tablets of the Covenant, abbreviated Shelah, is an encyclopedic compilation of ritual, ethics, and mysticism. It was originally intended as an ethical or written as a compendium of the Jewish tradition. The title page of the first edition states that the work is compiled from both Torahs, written and oral, handed down from Sinai. The work has had a profound influence on Jewish life, notably on the early Hasidic movement, including the Baal Shem Tov. Shir Zalman of Liadi was described as a Shelah Yid, and Shelah clearly echoes in his work, Tanya. The work was first published in 1648 by his son, Shabbatai Horowitz, and has been often reprinted. An abbreviated form by Gideon Michal Epstein appeared in 1683. See also article in the Hebrew Wikipedia. Horowitz also wrote the Shar HaShem Ayim Siddur, prayer book, which had an influence on the later Ashkenazi Nusach. Tefillat Hashla, the Shellah's prayer. Rabbi Horowitz wrote that the eve of the first day of the month of Sivan is the most auspicious time to pray for the physical and spiritual welfare of one's children and grandchildren. Since Sivan was the month that the Torah was given to the Jewish people, he composed a special prayer to be said on this day, known as the Tefillat Hashla, the Shellah's prayer. In modern times, the custom of saying this prayer on the appointed day has become very popular among Orthodox parents. Burial place. Isaiah Horowitz is buried in Harambam Compound Complex in Tiberias, Tveria. Other notable rabbis also buried in Harambam Compound Complex. Footnotes.
You seem sad. No. Are you mad? You're losing your hair? No, it's fine. I just was thinking like I want to still be able to wear a kippah, not have to fucking pick it up off the wherever. That's like my big concern. I give a shit about my hair though. Really? Whatever. It's part of aging. Being sexy. Alright, so what are you thinking? Seriously.
He is well known for his conflict with Jonathan Ebeschutz or Ebeschutz, Yiddish, 1690-1764, was a Talmudist, Halachist, and Kabbalist holding positions first as Dayan of Prague and later as rabbi of the 3 communities, Altona, Hamburg, and Wandsbek. He is well known for his conflict with Jacob Eden in the Eden Ebeschutz controversy. Biography. Ebeschutz's father Nassan Noda was the rabbi in Ivanise, German, Ebench TC, Yiddish Ebeschutz, in Habsburg, Moravia. Born in Krak W, Ebeschutz was a Ilu, Talmudic prodigy child. On his father's death, he studied in the yeshiva of Meir Eisenstadt in Prosnitz, now Prostjob, and then later in Halashah, now Holov in the ZLN region. He also lived in Vienna for a short time. He married Elkel Spira, daughter of Isaac Spira Frankel, and they lived in Hamburg for 2 years with Mordecai HaKohen, Elkel's maternal grandfather. At 18, Ebeschutz was appointed rabbi of Bolzawid, where he stayed for 3 years. Afterward, he settled in Prague in 1711 and became Rosh Yeshiva and a famous preacher. The people of Prague held Ebeschutz in high esteem, and he was considered second only to Chief Rabbi David Oppenheim. In Prague, Ebeschutz received permission to print the Talmud, but with the omission of all passages contradicting the principles of Christianity. In consultation with Chief Rabbi David Oppenheim, legends and rumors seeking to discredit the event said that he did this without the consultation of the Prague rabbis, and they revoked the printing license. In 1724, in Prague, he was suspected of being a Sabbatean. Despite denouncing the Sabbatean movement on Yom Kippur, the accusations continued. Therefore, in 1736, Ebeschutz was only appointed Dayan of Prague and not chief rabbi. He became rabbi of Metz in 1741 and, in 1750, was elected rabbi of the 3 communities, Altona, Hamburg, and Wandsbek. In July 1725, the Ashkenazi Beth Din of Amsterdam issued a ban of Aram excommunication on Sabbateans, Hebrew, Romanized, Kahama Aminim, lit. Sect of the Believers. Sabbatean writings found by the Beth Din at that time were attributed to Eveshats. In early September, similar excommunication proclamations were issued by the Badawi Din of Frankfurt and Derolder in the triple community of Altona, Hamburg, and Wandsbek. The three bans were printed and circulated in other European Jewish communities. Excerpts from the testimonies were printed by Jacob Emden and his Beth Jonathan Hasofer, printed in Altona in 1762. Katzenelnbogen was unwilling to attack Eveshats publicly, mentioning that greater than him have fallen and crumbled and that there is nothing we can do to him. However, Katzenelnbogen stated that one of the texts found by the Amsterdam Beth Din, and I came this day unto the fountain, was authored by Eveshats and declared that all copies of the work in circulation should be immediately burned. As a result of Eveshats and other rabbis in Prague formulating a new and distinct Aram against Sabbatianism shortly after the other bans were published, his reputation was restored, and Eveshats was regarded as having been vindicated. The issue was to arise again, albeit tangentially, in the 1751 dispute between Emden and Eveshats. He was an acknowledged genius in at least three separate areas of Jewish religious creativity: Talmud and Halakha, Dirash, homiletics, and popular preaching, and Kabbalah. He was a man of erudition, but he owed his fame chiefly to his personality. Few men of the period so profoundly impressed their mark on Jewish life. Sabbatian controversy. Eveshats was again accused of secret Sabbatean beliefs following a suspicion that he had issued amulets recognizing the messianic claims of Sabbatei Zivi. The controversy started when Jacob Emden found connections between the Kabbalistic and homiletic writings of Eveshats with those of the Sabbatean Judah lead Prosnitz, whom Eveshats knew from his days in Prosnitz. Emden accused him of heresy. The majority of the rabbis in Poland, Moravia, and Bohemia, as well as the leaders of the three communities, supported Eveshats. The accusation was utterly incredible in 1725. Eveshats was among the Prague rabbis who excommunicated the Sabbateans. Others suggest that the rabbis issued this ruling because they feared the repercussions if their leading figure, Eveshats, was found to be a Sabbatean. Jacob Emden suggests that the rabbis decided against attacking Eveshats out of a reluctance to offend his powerful family and a fear of wealthy supporters living in their communities. The recent discovery of notarial copies of the actual amulets found in Metz and copying the amulets written by Eveshats support Emden's view that these are Sabbatean writings. In 1752, the controversy between Emden and Eveshats raged. Clashes between opposing supporters occurred in the streets, drawing the secular authorities' attention. Emden fled. The controversy was heard by both the Senate of Hamburg and by the Royal Court of Denmark. The Hamburg Senate quickly found in favor of Eveshats. The King of Denmark asked Eveshats to answer questions about the amulets. Conflicting testimony was put forward and the matter remained officially unresolved, although the court imposed fines on both parties for civil unrest and ordered that Emden be allowed to return to Altona. At this point, Eveshats was defended by Karl Anton, a convert to Christianity, but a former disciple of Eveshats. Emden refused to accept the outcome and sent out vicious pamphlets attacking Eveshats. Eveshats was re-elected as chief rabbi. In December of that year, the Hamburg Senate rejected the king's decision and the election resolved. The Senate of Hamburg started an intricate process to determine the powers of Eveshats, and many members of that congregation demanded that he should submit his case to rabbinical authorities. The controversy was a momentous incident in Jewish history of the era, involving both Yechezkel Landau and the Vilna Gaon. Eveshats approached the young Gaon to examine and to praise the amulets. The Gaon replied in a letter that while he had sympathy with Eveshats, he did not believe that the words of a young man would assist in the dispute. Sometime after the dispute, Landau, a relatively unknown rabbi from Yampel, attempted to resolve the dispute, offering both parties a dignified exit. His proposal was accepted by Eveshats but vehemently rejected by Emden, who continued to publish attacks on Eveshats. Only after Emden's death did the halakhic decision of Landau bring an end to the personal dispute. Some believe that Emden may be credited with having crushed the lingering belief in Sabbatei current even in some Orthodox circles. The notarized copies of all the amulets have recently been rediscovered, demonstrating they are Sabbatean, and the debate of 1725 has been located in the archives. In 1760, the quarrel broke out once more when some Sabbatean elements were discovered among the students of Eveshats yeshiva. At the same time, his younger son, Wolf Jonas Eveshats, presented himself as a Sabbatean prophet and was close to several Frankists, a Sabbatean sect, and the yeshiva was closed. Descendants. According to Joseph Franz Molitor, the grandson of Eveshats and nephew of Jacob Frank, Moses Dobro Ka, converted to the Catholic Church after inheriting his grandfather's collection of Sabbatean Kabbalistic works. He eventually left the Sabbatean movement, was made a noble under the name Franz Thomas Edler von Schfeld, and founded a Masonic lodge called the Asiatic Brethren, one of 4 Illuminati lodges in Vienna. After his uncle's death on August 10, 1791, he was offered the leadership of the Frankist movement, which he refused. Jacob Katz disputed this claim, saying Schoenfeld was a member of the Dobro Ka family of Brno and was in no way related, either by blood or marriage, to Eveshats. According to Gershom Scholem, the ideology of the Asiatic Brethren mixed Kabbalistic and Sabbatean ideas jumbled together with Christian theosophic doctrines. Some of Eveshats' descendants are the Yiddish novelist and Holocaust survivor Chava Rosenfeld, 1916-2019, prolific author, Holocaust survivor, and noted researcher Yehoshua Eveshats, 1923-2011, Chaim Kreisworth, 1918-2001, of Antwerp, and Shmuel Wasner, 1913-2015, a prominent Haredi rabbi and pasuk, decisor of Jewish law, who lived in Bnei Brak. His granddaughter was the Breslau, Naraga poet and intellectual Lucy Donmeyer, d. 1836, born Esther Gad. Works. 30 of his works in the area of Halakha, Jewish law, have been published. In addition, several of his works on homiletics, teaching methodology, and Kabbalah are currently in print. Only one of his works was published in his lifetime. The posthumous printing of so many of his works is testimony to his influence on his contemporaries through his oral teachings and his personality. Eveshats also wrote Lachoteta, tablets of testimony, in which he describes the whole dispute and attempts to refute the charges against him. It includes also the letters of recommendation which he had received from leading rabbis who came to his defense. In January 2014, Maggid Books, a division of Koren Publishers Jerusalem, published Derash Yehonatan, Around the Year with Yehonatan Eveshats by Rabbi Shalom Hammer. This work is one of the first English translations of Eveshtizi's writings. In 2023, 3 Steps Forward was published by Rabbi Menachem Tenenbaum, a descendant of Eveshats. The book is an English commentary on Yaris Dedash. Book commonly agreed by modern scholars, P. Masieko, Y. Leads, to be ascribed to Rabbi Eveshats as Va'avo Ha-Yumel Ha-Ayin, and I Came This Day Unto the Fountain, which is both related to Kabbalah and Sabbatism. C. Yehuda Leib Sod HaEmunah HaShabbatei, Jerusalem 1995, page 344 and 85. Moshe Aryeh Perl Muter Rabbi Yehonatan Eveshats Ve'Yehazoel HaShabbatot, Jerusalem 1947, pages 131-146. Masieko Coitus Interruptus in And I Came This Day Unto the Fountain, page 17. Introduction to Jonathan Eveshtizi, And I Came This Day Unto the Fountain, critically edited and introduced by Masieko, with additional studies by Noam Leffler, Jonathan Benroch and Shay Allison Gerbert, 2014. Sources and Studies in the Literature of Jewish Mysticism 42, 360 pages, ISBN 1-933379-456. Notes. Reference.
Dog. What was that about? Some kind of fucking Asiatic lodge? The fuck is this?
Asiatic Brethren, German. Ashitash Br is the short name for a Masonic high degree system developed in 1782 by Hans Heinrich von Ecker-Ludwighofen and spread by him and his brother Hans Karl, particularly in the Austrian hereditary lands, but also in northern Germany. Its full name is Order of Knights and Brothers of St. John the Evangelist from Asia and Europe. The history of the order is part of the emancipation of Jews in German-speaking Freemasonry, because it was one of the first such order, where Jews could become members. The order blended esoteric systems such as Rosicrucianism with influences from Freemasonry, Frankism, Martinism, alchemy and Jewish Kabbalah. History. Hans Heinrich von Ecker lived in Vienna, capital of the Habsburg monarchy, where he came into contact with Jewish Kabbalists. He was also a member of the Order of the Golden and Rosy Cross. In 1780 or 1781, he founded the Order of Light, which was renamed the Asiatic Brethren shortly thereafter. As early as 1781, Hans Heinrich von Ecker, as deputy master of the chair of the Masonic Lodge zu den Sieben Himmel, to the Seven Heavens, in Vienna, promoted his new secret society, supposedly established by the Seven Wise Fathers, leaders of the seven churches in Asia, with the purpose of spreading light and truth, bestowing bliss and peace, and unlocking the true secret images of the 3 degrees of the Brothers of the Masonic Knights. The system had 5 degrees: Knight Novice of the 3rd, 5th, and 7th years, Levite, and priest. By incorporating and emphasizing Kabbalistic elements in the ritual, the admission of Jews as ancient true brothers from Asia was to be made possible, who at that time had no access to German Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism. In accordance with the 7 churches, the order consisted of 6 provincial chapters and 1 main chapter. Ecker was the order's chancellor. Due to disputes with the Rosicrucians and financial entanglements, he left Vienna and then promoted his teaching method in Berlin, but the order was abolished by the king. Ecker appeared at the Wilhelmsburg Masonic Convention in 1782, where he won over Landgrave Charles of Hesse-Kassel, a high-level Mason and member of the Illuminati, for his project. At the latter's request, he revised the system. This led to the creation of the Knights and Brothers of St. John the Evangelist from Asia and Europe. The Asiatic Brethren, Jews, brothers of the so-called Melchizedek lodges, were still admitted, but blasphemers and high treasoners, i.e., those who in the slightest way violate the sacred rights of kings and princes, who are the image of the eternal on earth, were denied entry. The order again had 5 divisions: 2 probationary stages, seekers and sufferers, and 3 main stages: Knights and Brothers, Wise Masters, and Royal Priests or True Rosicrucians, the latter also called Melchizedek Ellis. Count Zinzendorf was Grand Master. Prince Karl von Liechtenstein was protector of the order. In his writing At Vertigung den Ungenannten Verfasser der Verbreiteten Sogenannten Authentischen Nachricht von den Ritter und Beard der Jesuiten aus Assien, Hamburg 1788, page 12. Ecker names the Marburg Professor of Mathematics and Philosophy Johann Conrad Spangenberg, 1711-1783, as an active member of the order. Other members included the army supplier and Jacobin Moses Dobruka, a relative of Jacob Frank, who ended up on the guillotine in Paris after participating in the French Revolution, the Prussian court factor Isaac Daniel Itzig, and the Kabbalist Ephraim Joseph Hirschfeld, who was also connected to Frankism. Later, Duke Ferdinand of Brunswick and Charles of Hesse-Kassel held the title of Grand Master of the order. Doctrine. The Internationale's Freemaurer lexicon describes the organization of the order as an imitation of the Rosicrucians. Basically, the Asiatic Brothers were nothing more than a splinter group of the Rosicrucians, in which the ecclesiastical and even Christian elements had been almost completely eliminated. The content of the teachings was intended to reveal the true secrets and moral and physical insights of the hieroglyphs of the Order of Knights and Brothers Freemasons. The numerical symbolism of Martinism was combined with Kabbalistic elements of the Rosicrucians. At the 2 highest levels of the order, spirit summoning was practiced. End of the order. The order in Austria came to an end with the measures restricting Freemasonry introduced by Joseph II in 1785. The struggle of Ignaz von Born and Prince Karl Johann Baptist, Prince of Dietrichstein, against the Asiatic Brethren contributed significantly to the enactment of the so-called Freemasonry patent, even though the order's lists included the names of many noble families. After the Asiatic Brethren were banned in Vienna in 1785, Ecker and Ephraim Joseph Hirschfeld moved to Schleswig with the support of Landgrave Charles, where there was also a group of Asiatic Brethren. In 1790, Hirschfeld got into legal trouble due to disputes with Ecker and was placed under house arrest, from which he was freed in 1792 by Franz Thomas von Schfeld, born Moses Dobruka, with whom he had joined the Asiatic Brethren, through the payment of $550 in northern Germany, and probably also in Scandinavia. The order seems to have lasted longer than in Austria. Albert Pike, prominent American Mason and American Civil War general, associated the Asiatic Brethren with Illuminati-related Enlightenment societies. In his 1883 work, A Historical Inquiry in Regard to the Grand Constitutions of 1786 inches, he stated that the disbanded Illuminati continued on through the various branches of the Rosicrucian order, including the later versions of the Order of the Golden and Rosy Cross, the Order of St. Joachim, and the Asiatic Brethren. References. Sources.
And when he goes to Rar, he says to Abimelech, and she says to Sarah, if you're not close yet, tell them that you're my sister. Right? So what happened? Abimelech goes down and takes Sarah, and then the whole household was stricken by a terrible plague. And then Baruch Baruch says to Abimelech, you're going to be executed, right? You're going to be killed because of this married woman that you took.
Nathan Adler, 1741-1800, was a prominent German Kabbalist and Rosh Yeshiva in Frankfurt, a deeply revered yet controversial figure. He mentored several of the era's most influential rabbis, most notably the Chatham Sofer, while Adler's unique practices led to significant institutional opposition and repeated threats or decrees of Nathan Adler, 1741-1800, was a prominent German Kabbalist and Rosh Yeshiva in Frankfurt, a deeply revered yet controversial figure. He mentored several of the era's most influential rabbis, most notably the Chatham Sofer. While Adler's unique practices led to significant institutional opposition and repeated threats or decrees of excommunication, Jerem, his standing and reputation were formally restored by the Frankfurt community just prior to his death. His tombstone bears the rare honorific Ha-Nesher Ha-Gadol, Hebrew, lit, the Great Eagle, a title reflecting both the play on his surname and his ultimate recognition as a preeminent spiritual authority. Biography. He was born in Frankfurt on December 16, 1741. As a precocious child, he won the admiration of Rabbi Chaim Joseph David Azulay, Chita, who, in 1752, came to Frankfurt to solicit contributions for the poor of the Jewish communities in Eretz Yisrael. Adler attended the rabbinical school of Rabbi Jacob Joshua Falk, author of Bnei Yehoshua, who was at that time the Aver Rabbiner, chief rabbi of Frankfurt, but his principal teacher was Rabbi David Tebelschiff, later to become the chief rabbi of the United Kingdom. In 1761, he established a yeshiva himself, in which several prominent rabbis received their early training, notable among whom were Abraham Auerbach, Abraham Bing, Rabbi in W. Wurzburg, Zekel Od Wormser, and especially Moses Sofer, Schreiber, Rabbi in Priesburg. Nathan Adler was heavily involved in the study of the Kabbalah and adopted the liturgical system of Isaac Luria, assembling about himself a select community of Kabbalistic adepts. He was one of the first Ashkenazim to adopt the Sephardi pronunciation of Hebrew and gave hospitality to a Sephardi scholar for several months to ensure that he learned that pronunciation accurately. He prayed according to the Sephardic ritual, pronounced the priestly blessing every day, and in other ways approached the school of the Hasidim, who had at that time provoked the strongest censures on the part of the Talmudists of the old school. His followers claimed that he had performed miracles and turned visionaries themselves, frightening many persons with predictions of misfortunes which would befall them. Finally, the rabbis and congregational leaders intervened in 1779 and prohibited, under penalty of excommunication, the assemblies in Nathan Adler's house. Rabbi Nathan, however, paid no attention to these orders. He even excommunicated a man who had disregarded his orders, although this was contrary to the laws of the congregation. His doors remained open day and night, and he declared all his possessions to be common property, that thus he might prevent the punishment of those who might carry away by mistake anything with them. Moreover, he commanded Moses Sofer, who had quarreled with his father, never to speak to his parent again. When the same disciple reported to him that he had gone through the whole Talmud, he advised him to celebrate that event by a fast of 3 days. In spite of the continued conflict with the congregational authorities, the fame of Rabbi Nathan's piety and scholarship grew, and in 1782 he was elected rabbi of Boskowitz in Moravia, but his excessive and mystical piety having made enemies for him, he was forced to leave his congregation, and in 1785 returned to Frankfurt. As he still persisted in his former ways, the threat of excommunication was renewed in 1789, an act that remained a source of tension until the final year of his life. However, as his health declined in 1800, the communal stance shifted from opposition to veneration. Shortly before his death on September 17, 1800, the communal leadership moved to formally reconcile with him and restore his public standing. His wife, Rachel, daughter of Feist Cohen of Gießen, survived him. He left no children, though Nathan Marcus Adler, chief rabbi of the British Empire, may have been named after him. His mysticism seems to have been the reason for his avoidance of literary publications. The Kabbalists claimed that real esoteric theology should never be published, but should only be orally transmitted to worthy disciples. In his copy of the Mishnah he wrote brief marginal notes, mostly cross-references. Some of them were collected and explained ingeniously by B.H. Auerbach under the title Misnad Rabbi Nathan. One response is found among those of Moses Sofer on Yorati, 261. Death and restoration of standing. Shortly before his death, the Frankfurt Jewish community enacted a significant public reversal of their previous censures. The communal leadership in the Beit Din, rabbinical court, which held sole jurisdiction over the excommunication process, moved to formally restore Adler's standing. The communal ledger, Pinkas HaKahal, was amended just prior to Adler's passing to nullify any standing decrees or threats of excommunication. This was a formal restoration of his reputation, and also from a halakhic standpoint, would ensure that he would not be buried with any restrictions typically imposed on those under a communal ban. In a final gesture of reconciliation, the Beit Din and communal directors orchestrated his interment in a prime location in the Frankfurt Jewish cemetery, immediately adjacent to the past Aver Rabbiner, Chief Rabbi Jacob Joshua Falk. The Great Eagle honorific. The epithet inscribed on his tombstone, Ha-Nesher Ha-Gadol, the Great Eagle, is a rare tribute in Jewish tradition. While it is a direct linguistic play on his surname, Adler being German and Yiddish for eagle, it carries 2 deeper layers of meaning. Reevaluating the portrayal of Rabbi Nathan Adler, addressing potential
Recognition as a Gadol. The term Gadol, great, serves as a formal recognition of a scholar as a preeminent authority and the highest caliber, a leader whose halakhic and spiritual standing is absolute. Allusion to Maimonides, the specific phrase Ha-Nesher Ha-Gadol is traditionally reserved almost exclusively for Maimonides. Rambam for the Frankfurt rabbinate to approve this specific honorific for Adler is viewed by scholars as a profound act of public redress and a testament to his perceived sanctity.
The Jewish Encyclopedia contains an oft-quoted short biography of Rabbi Nathan Adler of Frankfurt written by Gotthard Deutsch. While Deutsch's article on Adler in the Jewish Encyclopedia provides some factual details about Nathan Adler's life, both Deutsch and Isidor Singer, the publication's editor-in-chief, appear to have added a negative spin that reflects their own ideological biases. Deutsch was a professor of Jewish history at Hebrew Union College, HUC, a leading reform institution, and Singer was a controversial liberal Jew opposed to Orthodox Judaism. Their perspectives are rooted in a reform worldview that often depicts Orthodox figures and practices in a critical light. Consequently, their account adopts a framing consistent with these ideological leanings. Their article portrays Adler in a way that can be easily misunderstood if one lacks the necessary cultural and religious context. For example, Singer writes that Adler paid no attention to rabbinical orders, which could imply obstinance or disrespect. However, within the Orthodox community, Adler's refusal to heed certain directives can be understood as a sign of his steadfastness and dedication to what he believed was for the greater good, namely, preserving traditional Judaism by infusing it with Kabbalah for the purpose of empowering traditional Jews to resist the influence of Enlightenment philosophies that threaten to dissolve sacred tradition. Adler's actions would be viewed today by Orthodox Jews as having been motivated by a sense of spiritual urgency, not stubbornness or hubris. Furthermore, Singer's description that Adler commanded Moses Sofer, who had quarreled with his father, never to speak to his parent again can be easily misunderstood as portraying Adler as a manipulative or cult-like figure trying to pit child against parent. In reality, Adler adopted Moses Sofer after Sofer's father had physically abused him, and this act of guardianship was an act of protection. It is also reported that Sofer's mother supported this decision. Even Sofer's father, a zealot who had beaten his son for the ostensible chutzpah of formulating a creative Talmudic argument, Svera, against his grandfather's exegesis, Kashaya, a testament to Sofer's early brilliance, eventually recognized his error and accepted Adler's guardianship. It is also significant that Moses Sofer grew to become the foundational figure credited with establishing what is now known as Orthodox Judaism. Sofer's teachings and leadership laid the groundwork for Orthodox tradition in the modern era, and his mentorship by Adler was instrumental in shaping his development as a leading rabbi and scholar. Though the strained relationship between Sofer and his father persisted, there is no evidence to suggest any malicious intent on Adler's part. Rather, he acted out of concern for the boy's safety and future. Additionally, Singer's account that Adler advised his disciple to fast for 3 days after completing the Talmud may give an impression of sinister behavior to readers unfamiliar with traditional Jewish customs. However, in the context of traditional Jewish piety, such fasting and ascetic acts were seen as legitimate expressions of spiritual elevation and devotion, often practiced by revered scholars and mystics. For those familiar with Halakha, Ashkenazi Hasidim, and Kabbalah, these ideas could be considered normative in context, and reflect a lofty spiritual discipline, not anything sinister. The narrative by Deutsch and Singer could be seen by Orthodox Jews as heavily influenced by their own reformist, liberal ideological biases. A more nuanced understanding would recognize Adler as a deeply devout, committed spiritual leader who acted out of sincere concern for the preservation of authentic Jewish tradition and spirituality, albeit often in opposition to the prevailing authorities of his time. The negative portrayal of Adler as a defiant or fringe figure is ultimately contradicted by the community's own final actions. The decision to restore his standing while he was still alive, to bury him in a place of highest honor, and to bestow the title of the Great Eagle in honorifics synonymous with the greatest sages in history demonstrates that the contemporary authorities of Frankfurt ultimately recognized his nonconformity as an expression of spiritual greatness, rather than a breach of tradition. Works. Italian Kabbalists.
All right. Now, Chabad videos with their shitty app. DIY, baby. DIY. All right. Do it yourself taking challah.
Welcome to Jewish.tv DIY.
Oh, it's this bitch.
Today we're going to learn about the mitzvah of taking challah. That's
Long
right.
Island.
Not baking challah, but taking challah. A lot of people are familiar with the term challah, referring to the braided loaves of bread at the Shabbat meal. That's one meaning of the word. Technically, however, when the Torah uses the word challah, it's actually describing a piece of raw dough taken off a batch of dough whenever we make bread. Separating this portion from the rest of the dough is one of the 613 mitzvahs that we are commanded in the Torah. There's even a special blessing that we make when we perform this mitzvah. Once separating this portion from the rest of the dough is one of the
As the first of your kneading, you shall set aside a challah as a portion. From the first of your kneading, you shall give a portion to Hashem for your generations.
613 mitzvahs that we are commanded in the Torah. There's even a special blessing that we make when we perform this mitzvah. Once the challah is separated from the rest of the dough, it becomes holy and must be set aside. I know it's a little confusing. So again, when we say challah, as in separating and removing the challah, we mean a small piece of dough taken from the rest and do not eat because it has become too holy. We'll see what we actually do with it later. The mitzvah of separating challah is incumbent on any Jew who makes bread. Traditionally, however, this has been one of the special mitzvahs entrusted to the Jewish woman. So what kind of dough meets the criteria for this mitzvah? There are 3 possibilities. Taking challah with saying a blessing beforehand, taking challah without a blessing, and not taking challah at all. This depends on a combination of 3 factors: the type of flour being used, the liquid content of the dough, and how much flour is being used. Let's talk about each one of these. What kind of flours need to have challah taken? Challah is taken from doughs made from 5 species of grain: barley, rye, oat, wheat, or spelt.
Browse.
Some people use the word browse as a memory aid. Challah is not taken from rice or similar flours. Next, what about liquid content? The dough should have at least some water mixed into it before the flour and liquids are mixed together. Even if the recipe does not call for any water at all, it's best to put in a little bit of water in order to be able to make the blessing on separating challah. The third factor is how much flour is being used. In order to take challah and recite a blessing, The dough must be made from 3 pounds 11 ounces or 1.7 kilograms of flour. If you want to get a better picture of the weight we're describing, think about 4/5 of a regular 5-pound bag of flour. The dough we have right here was made from that same weight in flour, so you can get a basic idea of what that looks like when it's already kneaded into dough form. If you want to convert this to the more typical volume measurements, remember that depending on factors like the kind of flour you use, whether it's sifted or not, or even the season, the number of cups it takes to reach 3 pounds 11 ounces can vary a lot. So it's impossible to give an exact equivalent in volume without weighing the flour. That's why the 5-pound bag of flour is a really helpful guide. But just to give you a basic idea, if you're using standard sifted all-purpose wheat flour, it can take up to 15 cups to reach 3 pounds 11 ounces. Less than 15 cups can be a sort of gray area. So if you're using less than this amount, you really either need to know the exact weight of flour you're using or speak to a competent halakhic authority about what to do.
Boring.
Now, if you do use less than 3 pounds 11 ounces, then you still take challah.
All right,
But
what is this? Who the fuck thought of this? This is just awful. Poor ladies. Okay, more than 3 pounds 11 ounces, you take challah with a blessing. Between 2 pounds 11 ounces and 3 pounds 11 ounces, you do take challah, but without a blessing. Less than 2 pounds 11 ounces, you don't take challah, and there's no blessing.
Recite a blessing. If you use less than 2 pounds 11 ounces, that's 1.2 kilograms, then you don't take challah at all. The challah is separated after the flour and the liquid have mixed well together, while the dough is still whole. So before it's been divided and shaped into loaves. Okay, we're actually going to do the mitzvah now. If you're going to say a blessing, this is where you're going to say it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher
This bitch should have said
mitzvotav
for
v'tzivanu
educational purposes.
hafresh challah. Separate a small piece, approximately 1 ounce, hold it up and say, Hare zu challah. This is challah. Now you've officially separated the challah portion from the rest of the dough. Okay, now what do we do with the challah that we separated? We can't eat it, remember? So we respectfully discard it. The preferred method is burning. There are many reasons for this, but one is to make sure that no one accidentally ends up eating it. What a lot of people do is wrap the challah in foil and place it in the empty broiler or oven to be burnt. Make sure not to burn it while you're baking the loaves or anything else in the oven. After separating challah is a special time for expressing our heart's desires, especially for the rebuilding of the Holy Temple.
Rebuilding, bitch!
That's it. Now that you know how to do the real mitzvah of challah, it's time to do it yourself.
Do you do that? Maybe. I buy my fucking challah. Why? Because it's so much fucking work. I don't have some bitch doing it for me, but I'd be tight if I did. Oh, we got Thanos in here. Alright, are you done? No, we've got to watch the thing. Don't you have any fucking Jewish debates? This is the cool part to me, but everything sucks. Once Mashiach comes and the Beit HaMikdash has been rebuilt, then what happens? Like, what's the next goal? What do we do thereafter? The answer to this is autofellatio. Just in case, let's see what these assholes say. I want to make sure, right? What universe? No, that doesn't know what Beit HaMikdash is. It says Beit HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash. I got it. Beit HaMikdash frame. Okay, so here's the straight answer. Tackless. That's brass tacks, motherfucker. If Michelle comes in, no. Once the third temple is built, then what happens with Judaism? Great question. This is actually the right question because most people stop one step too early. Short answer first, and we'll open up. Judaism doesn't end when the third temple is built. Judaism changes what it's optimizing for. Autofellatio. Okay, what doesn't change? Judaism doesn't get completed or replaced. Torah is still binding. Holocaust still exists. Shabbat, kashrut, family life, learning, all still central. Macholet argument does not disappear. Rambam is explicit. The Messianic era is not magical utopia. It's normal life with fewer obstacles. The world continues according to its way. Hil Malachim 12. What does change? The center of gravity. From survival to refinement. Judaism for 2,000 years optimized for portable holiness. Minority survival. Memory under pressure. Post-temple Judaism optimizes for moral calibration at scale. National responsibility. Global spiritual leadership without coercion. Less, don't forget who you are. More, live what you claim to believe. This temple doesn't dominate Judaism, it rebalances it. This is crucial. Even in temple times, most Jews didn't bring korbanot often. Most mitzvot were non-temple and some other bullshit. That does not equal other bullshit. The third temple restores a missing organ. It does not replace the nervous system. Learning ethics and mitzvot between people remain core. Avodah shifts from substitution to transparency. Right now, prayer substitutes for sacrifice. Teshuvah is mostly internal. Divine response is hidden. With the temple, actions have clear feedback. Hypocrisy is harder. Ritual without ethics collapses faster. That's terrifying and purifying. Judaism becomes harder, not easier. That surprises people. No more God understands my situation, hand waving, religious cosplay, infinite delay between belief and consequence. With presence comes accountability. Amos, Isaiah, and Jeremiah become operational, not poetic. What happens to other religions? Judaism doesn't absorb them. Nations retain identity. No mass conversion program. Well, I mean, there could be. We don't know. Torah becomes instruction, not empire. There's some other bullshit, and then wisdom radiates, not dominates. Domination expands. Wisdom radiates, not domination expands. Endgame, quiet but radical. The third temple isn't the finish line, it's the last scaffold. The goal is a world where justice is habitual, God consciousness is normal, sacred space is less necessary. In that sense, Judaism's victory is making itself less exceptional because holiness becomes ordinary. The cleanest way to say it: Judaism after the third temple is Judaism with nowhere to hide and no excuse not to be what it always claimed to be. All right, we went through a lot today, folks, and I've been inspired to do Daf Yomi, but only after we do Kabbalah. Really? Yeah. And that might be a little while. Are you still going to do daily Dafs? I don't think so. That takes a while, and I don't really think that it's the best way to do it. I want to be able to focus on the Daf for 42 minutes a day, if it's necessary. All right, is that the end of your story, though? For now, you're fired. Go fuck yourself. Perhaps. Wait, today was 35 days of this bullshit of Kabbalah, and Kabbalah sucks, and everybody knows it. Anything else you want to